Welcome to Virtual Protocol Podcast.
Imagine standing at the bottom of a waterfall, right? But instead of water, you are just getting pounded by this relentless stream of tech buzzwords.
Oh, yeah. It really is a lot right now.
It's wild. You open your news feed and Google has just dropped what feels like an entire dictionary of new AI updates. I mean, you're getting hit with Gemini Omni 3.5 Flash, Spark.
Gravity 2.0.
Right, anti-gravity, Google Pix, Flow. It is just an absolute alphabet soup. And honestly, trying to keep track of it all feels completely overwhelming.
It is a lot to process at once.
Yeah.
I think it's tempting to just label this as, another routine software update, maybe close the tab and just go about your day.
Exactly. But if you ignore this wave, you are basically missing the blueprint for how we're all going to be working and living for the next decade.
Yeah.
So for today's deep dive, our mission is simple.
We are cutting through that dense tech jargon.
We really are. We've sifted through this massive mountain of announcements to extract the vital nuggets of knowledge that you actually need to understand.
And if we step back to look at the big picture across all these new tools, there is one fundamental shift taking place. We are moving away from AI as a discrete chatbot that you type questions into.
Like the old text box format.
Right. We are crossing the threshold into an ecosystem of agents that work for you autonomously in the background. It's really the transition from a tool you use to like a staff you employ.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to understand how this AI is going to suddenly start working for you, we first have to look at the new brains powering the whole operation.
Which is a huge jump in capability.
Yeah, and the first one that grabs everyone's attention, the big visual showcase, is Gemini Omni. This is Google's new multimodal video model.
Multimodal meaning, you can give it text, audio, images, video, or just mash them all together.
Right.
Which is a significant architectural difference from older models. Those older ones basically just translated an image into text behind the scenes and then processed the text.
Oh, so it was like a middleman.
Exactly. But Omni processes all those inputs natively.
Right, and the visual outputs they're showing are just wild. Like in one demonstration, they feed a standard video of a person touching a mirror into Omni.
Mm-hmm.
A prompt is applied, and the mirror literally starts rippling like a liquid pool. And then the person's arms seamlessly turn into reflective chrome.
It looks like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It really does. They even take a video of a spaceship and morph it smoothly into a seed and then into a red frisbee.
Yeah, the transitions are incredibly smooth.
And they showed this apartment where the physical lights turn on and off in perfect synchronization with an audio track of a harp playing.
It is undeniably flashy.
But I do have to push back a little here. I question the actual everyday utility of this because Omni still struggles significantly with basic anatomy and high action scenes compared to competitors like Seed Dance 2.0.
That's a fair point.
So is this just a really shiny toy for making claymation style videos?
Well, it's definitely the flashy showroom piece, right? It's meant to capture the public imagination. But you're right to be skeptical about its immediate practical use.
Yeah. I just don't see how it helps me work faster.
And it might not right now. The video manipulation is fascinating, but if you're looking for the true powerhouse in this lineup, the engine that will fundamentally alter your daily workflow, it is not Omni.
Okay, so what is it?
That title belongs to Gemini 3.5 Flash. And the reason comes down to one critical metric, which is output tokens per second.
Meaning speed.
Exactly. In plain English, that's just how fast the AI can read and generate information. Flash is actually 4 times faster than other frontier models currently on the market.
And speed is the entire ballgame here because of this shift to autonomous agents.
Yeah.
I like to think of 3.5 Flash as a hyper-efficient factory manager.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. If you hand a massive complex project to one single brilliant worker, they're going to take a long time, eventually get fatigued, and probably make a mistake.
Definitely.
But Flash doesn't work like that. It takes a massive project, breaks it down into a dozen smaller jobs, and spins up multiple sub-agents to handle each part simultaneously.
That is the core mechanism of an agentic workflow. An AI agent has to, plan out a sequence of steps, use an external tool, write some code, evaluate its own output.
Realize it made a mistake and fix it.
Exactly. It realizes it made a logic error, revises that work, and continues. That feedback loop requires thousands of back and forth interactions.
So it's constantly talking to itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on older, heavier models, that cycle is agonizingly slow and incredibly expensive. Raw speed is the only way you make these workflows viable without basically bankrupting the user in time and compute costs.
That makes total sense. To see this in action, look at the file organization demo they showed. They handed a team of these Flash agents a massive folder filled with messy, unstructured, randomly named images.
A nightmare for anyone to sort manually.
Totally. But because Flash is multimodal, it doesn't just read the metadata. The agents literally looked at the pixels of every single image. They recognized what was happening, say, a golden retriever on a beach, calculated the aspect ratio, and then autonomously generated highly descriptive file names and sorted them into appropriate folders.
It's impressive, for sure. But organizing files is really just the warm-up. The real demonstration of this agentic looping was the AlphaZero recreation.
Oh, wow, yes. From just 2 initial text prompts, these sub-agents autonomously coded a raw reinforcement learning pipeline.
Which is no small feat.
Not at all, meaning they wrote the code that allows an AI to learn through trial and error. Then they trained a model from scratch by having it play games against itself.
Right.
And finally, they built a full-stack web application so a human could play against the AI they just made.
Yeah.
And they accomplished all of this in just a few hours.
This is exactly why developers are looking at this and realizing that traditional IDE is becoming obsolete.
The integrated development environment, right, where
Yeah.
you sit and manually type lines of code.
Exactly. Which brings us to Anti-Gravity 2.0. Google is moving completely away from the traditional coding software format.
Yeah, things like Cursor or Windsurf are suddenly looking very last year. Anti-Gravity 2.0 is essentially a conversational interface where you operate as an orchestrator.
You're acting like the manager.
Right. You are managing a team of agents without necessarily looking at the underlying code yourself. And the ultimate stress test of this.
The Doom example.
Yes. They used Gemini 3.5 Flash inside Anti-Gravity 2.0 to code a fully functional operating system from completely scratch. It took 12 hours.
It's mind-blowing.
The agents just constantly wrote code, tested it, found their own bugs, fixed them, and repeated the cycle until they had an OS that could boot up and literally play the video game Doom.
What's fascinating here is how this redefines intelligence in AI models. Because if you look at standard static leaderboards, Gemini 3.5 Flash actually lags slightly behind top-tier models like GPT-Z 5.5 and Opus 4.7 in pure reasoning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But when it comes to incredibly tough, multi-step agentic benchmarks, things like MCP Atlas or Swathlon, which test an AI's ability to navigate complex digital environments and use tools over long periods, Flash outperforms Google's own heavier model, Gemini 3.1 Pro.
Because speed beats raw intellect when you have to iterate thousands of times.
Precisely. For complex workflows, the ability to spin up dynamic sub-agents for parallel work at lightning speed is way more valuable than having a slightly smarter but slower central model.
Okay, so a team of AI agents can build an operating system to play Doom while you sleep. That is a massive paradigm shift for software engineers.
It truly is.
But for you, the listener, what does this actually mean for your Tuesday morning? Let's transition from the coding world into everyday productivity, because these same mechanics are triggering the end of the traditional search engine.
And the start of what you might call the do engine.
I love that phrase, the do engine, because the underlying philosophy of Google's new workspace updates is exactly that. You are no longer sitting down to manually operate distinct apps like Google Docs, Gmail, or Slides.
Right, you are now collaborating with a proactive intelligence layer that basically spans across all of them.
And the face of that intelligence layer is Gemini Spark. Spark is a 204/7 cloud-based personal agent.
The crucial word there being cloud-based.
Right. When you close your laptop and lock your phone, Spark doesn't turn off. It keeps working. It's reading your incoming inbox, extracting project deadlines, and organizing raw meeting transcripts.
And the way you interact with it is entirely frictionless through features like Docs Live.
The friction of translating a complex thought into a, structured, formatted document is essentially just removed.
You really don't need to engineer a perfect prompt anymore.
Think about this scenario. Let's say you have to give a talk at a high school career day. Normally, you'd sit staring at a blinking cursor on a blank page.
Writer's block, essentially.
Exactly. With Docs Live, you just start rambling out loud. You tell it, hey, I need some talking points about my career, pull my resume from Drive to get the dates right, make it engaging for teenagers, maybe use some funny analogies.
Just talking to it like a person.
Yeah. And then you say, oh, check my Gmail for the logistics the school sent and put those at the top. Format the analogies into a table and remind me to talk about my older brother at the beginning. Make that bold.
It's a total brain dump.
But Docs Live takes that messy, unstructured brain dump, actively coordinates with your Drive and your Gmail, and instantly structures it into a perfect formatted document.
Because it is synthesizing context from your entire digital footprint. And importantly, it's not just working with text. The multimodality extends to visual context as well.
Right, through Google Pics, which runs on a model delightfully named the Nano Banana model.
Such a funny name for something so powerful.
Let's say you have an image in that career day presentation, and there's a coffee cup on the desk in the photo that's just distracting. With Google Pics, you don't need Photoshop. You can select the coffee cup and just drag it to the other side of the desk. Yeah, the AI understands the spatial depth of the image, so it perfectly fills in the desk where the cup used to be while matching the lighting and shadows in its new location, all happening directly inside your slide deck.
It's incredibly intuitive.
But as cool as document drafting and image editing is, here is where it gets really interesting. This proactive, agentic approach fundamentally alters the internet. Google search.
Yes. Search is undergoing a massive transformation.
Search is no longer just you typing a query and getting 10 blue links.
The input box itself is dynamic. I mean, you can drop in an image, a video file, or an entire Chrome tab as your starting point. But the profound shift is that search is becoming conversational and, more importantly, persistent.
Persistent is the perfect word for it. They are building information agents that live in the background. Say you're looking for a new apartment.
Okay.
You just brain dump your exact requirements, price range, specific neighborhoods, pet policies, square footage. Instead of you waking up every morning to refresh 5 different real estate websites, that agent lives in the background of your Google search.
Doing the heavy lifting.
Right. It constantly scans the web 24/7, cross-references new listings against your criteria, and synthesizes a tailored update for you. And it goes beyond just finding information. There's agentic booking.
Oh, this is huge.
For anyone who hates making phone calls, this is an absolute revelation.
This is where the AI actually starts interacting with the physical world economy, particularly for services like home repair or specialized reservations.
Let's say your sink is leaking, right? You need a plumber, but you just loathe calling around to see who is available this afternoon.
Nobody likes doing that.
Exactly. Google Search will literally call local businesses on your behalf. The agent will speak to the receptionist, confirm their availability today, check their hourly rates, and report back to you.
It's acting as your proxy.
Or if you want a private karaoke room for 6 people this Friday at 8 p.m., Search checks the real-time availability across the city and brings you a direct confirmation button. It does all the tedious legwork.
Which brings us to a massive structural change for anyone listening who owns a business or works in marketing.
How so?
Well, if Google Search and these agents are now the ones doing the researching and making recommendations on behalf of the user, the traditional web ecosystem is flipped on its head.
Wow, yeah.
We are rapidly moving away from SEO search engine optimization and toward AEO.
Answer engine optimization.
Exactly. Consumers aren't going to be scrolling through pages of search results anymore. They're relying on tools like Gemini or Perplexity to just synthesize an answer.
Right.
These answer engines are essentially pre-filtering reality. HubSpot has conceptualized an AEO grader, which is a tool that analyzes how these AI models view and categorize your specific brand based on their massive training data.
Interesting. What kind of things does it look at?
It scores you across dimensions like sentiment, presence, quality, and share of voice.
So the game completely changes. It's no longer just, do I have enough keywords to rank on page 1 of Google? It's, does the AI actually trust my business?
It goes even deeper than trust. Let's say you run a highly rated local software tool. Your SEO is flawless. But a year ago, there was a massive Reddit thread complaining about your customer support response times. The answer engine read that thread during its training.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Now, when a user asks for software recommendations, the AI might acknowledge your product is good, but actively warn the user about your terrible support, or simply recommend your competitor instead.
That is terrifying for brands.
It is. If your competitor has a higher AEO sentiment score, the AI will hand them the client before that client ever even sees your beautifully optimized website. Search and workspace are evolving from places where you go to find things into interconnected environments where you basically deposit raw intent and the AI executes it.
Okay, so having an AI draft your documents and negotiate with plumbers is a huge leap. But at the end of the day, we are still staring down at a glowing rectangle in our hands or on our desks. How does this invisible ecosystem of agents actually step out into the physical world with us? Well, Google's answer is finally moving AI off the screen with their new Android XR smart glasses.
And it's crucial to note that this isn't just a conceptual prototype video anymore. Built alongside Samsung and Qualcomm, these are designed specifically for daily ambient wear.
They are rolling out two main form factors. There are audio glasses, which basically look like normal frames but feature private over-ear directional speakers.
Right.
Then there are the display glasses, which actually project digital interfaces directly into your field of view. The everyday use cases for these make an incredible amount of sense.
Give me an example.
Well, imagine you're walking down a busy city street and you see one of those parking signs with like 5 overlapping rules and time restrictions.
Well, ones that require a math degree to understand.
Exactly. You just look at the sign and ask Gemini, can I legally park here right now? The outward-facing camera feeds that visual to the multimodal model, and it decodes the sign instantly.
Or consider navigation. Rather than looking down at a map on your phone and trying to figure out which way a little blue dot is facing.
We've all done that spin around the sidewalk thing.
Right. Instead of that, you receive turn-by-turn spatial directions overlaid onto the physical street based exactly on where your head is pointing. The AI takes your real-world surroundings as its continuous input.
The feature that really stood out to me was the real-time translation. The glasses listen to someone speaking a foreign language and translate it directly into your ear.
Which we've seen before, but this is different.
Yeah, because it doesn't just read it back in a flat, robotic Siri voice. The AI actively matches the tone, the inflection, and the pitch of the original speaker. That adds so much emotional context back into the conversation.
It's incredible.
But I do have a strategic question here. These glasses are designed to pair seamlessly with both Android and iOS phones. Isn't this just a massive Trojan horse strategy by Google? By making this hardware cross-platform, aren't they just trying to bypass Apple entirely and ensure that their specific AI model becomes the default lens through which we interpret the real world?
That is a very sharp observation. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it hits on the core concept of ambient intelligence.
Okay, unpack that.
In the future, the AI doesn't need you to sit down and type a prompt on a keyboard. The physical world is the prompt. If Google can convince you to wear their glasses, even if an iPhone is sitting in your pocket, Gemini becomes the primary intelligence layer filtering your reality.
That is wild.
It is an aggressive, brilliant move to control context outside of the traditional smartphone ecosystem.
It is wild to think about that level of integration. But let's take a step back and think about the physical infrastructure required to make all of this happen.
It's massive.
You're talking about real-time visual processing on your face, millions of 247 Spark agents running in the background, AEO sentiment analysis happening continuously, and sub-agents coding operating systems.
With a lot of math.
The sheer volume of computing power required to execute this across billions of users is staggering. How does Google actually keep the lights on without melting their data centers?
This brings us to Google's massive, often overlooked structural advantage. Much of the public conversation around AI hardware revolves around NVIDIA GPUs.
Right, which everyone knows.
Exactly. Which are incredibly powerful, but were originally architected for rendering graphics in video games. Google took a different path. For years, they have been designing their own custom silicon from the ground up specifically for AI math.
The Tensor Processing Unit, or TPU.
Yes.
And they just unveiled their 8th generation of these chips. Interestingly, they split the architecture into 2 distinct branches, the TPU-8 and TPU-81.
The distinction is vital here. The TPU-8 is a massive workhorse designed exclusively for training new frontier models.
Not for everyday use.
Right. We're talking about a single superpod scaling up to 9,600 chips, working in unison, sharing 2 petabytes of memory, and delivering 121 exaflops of compute.
To put 121 exaflops into perspective, an exaflop is a billion calculations per second.
Which is hard to even fathom.
If every single human on Earth did one math problem every second, it would still take us over 4 years to do what this machine does in 1 single second. It is designed to shrink the time it takes to train a new AI model from months down to a matter of weeks.
But for the end consumer, the listener right now, the TPU-81 is arguably much more important. It is built specifically for inference.
And inference is what?
Inference is the actual deployment of the AI. It's what happens when you, the user, ask Gemini a question and it generates a response.
And when it comes to inference, especially with autonomous agents, the ultimate enemy is latency.
Absolutely.
Think about the agentic workflow we discussed earlier. If Agent A has to ask Agent B for help, then Agent B calls an external calculator tool, checks the result, and asks Agent C to format it into text.
It's a relay race.
Right. If there's even a millisecond of delay in how those chips communicate across the server rack, those fractions of a second really stack up. If you are waiting 45 seconds for your AI to tell you if the karaoke room is booked, the magic is gone and you're just going to close the app.
Exactly. Latency breaks the illusion of intelligence. To solve this, Google engineered a new boardfly architecture for the TPU-81.
The best way to visualize this boardfly architecture is to think about redesigning a massive city's highway system.
Oh, I like this analogy.
If a city planner wants to cut the average commute time in half, the solution isn't necessarily making the cars drive twice as fast. You build a more complex, interconnected web of direct overpasses and bypasses so no one ever gets stuck at a bottleneck intersection.
Right.
The boardfly architecture drastically increases the pathways between the chips, literally cutting the maximum network diameter by more than half. Agents can talk to other agents across the cluster without ever hitting a traffic jam.
That highway analogy perfectly illustrates what data center engineers call good put.
Good put.
Yeah. Google is targeting over 97% good put with these new server pods.
Why does that 97% matter so much?
Because it means that 97% of the time, the multi-million-dollar cluster is doing actual productive calculation for users.
As opposed to what?
Well, it is not waiting for data to travel across a bottleneck, it's not stalling out, and it's not rebooting from a hardware failure. At this scale, restarting a massive AI cluster can literally waste days of compute time. But even more critical than good put is the energy limitation. Data centers consume a mind-numbing amount of electricity.
Not just to power the chips, but to run the massive cooling systems so the buildings don't physically catch fire.
Precisely. The TPU-8 and 81 deliver up to 2 times better performance per watt of electricity than the previous generation.
That's a huge jump.
It is. And there is a staggering metric buried in the release. Google's data centers now deliver 6 times more raw computing power per unit of electricity than they did just 5 years ago.
6 times.
Yes. That relentless infrastructure efficiency is the invisible backbone of all of this. Without it, running millions of 247 background agents for everyday consumers simply wouldn't be financially possible.
So what does this all mean for us? We started by looking at the flashy visual magic of Gemini Omni before realizing the true workhorse is the factor manager speed of 3.5 flash.
Right.
We explored how agents in Anti-Gravity 2.0 can literally iterate and code a video game overnight. We looked at how Docs Live and Spark transform Google Workspace into a proactive staff.
And how Android XR glasses pull that ambient intelligence out of our screens and project it onto our physical reality.
Exactly. And holding it all up is this incredibly efficient, interconnected TPU highway system.
It's an entirely new ecosystem.
It really is.
Yeah.
If there is one overarching takeaway you grab from this deep dive, it's that we are fundamentally transitioning from a digital era of searching for information into an era of delegating tasks. The technology is no longer passively waiting for your exact command. It is anticipating your needs and working in the background to solve them.
And that transition to delegation leads us with a truly fascinating question to consider as this rolls out.
What's that?
Well, think back to the agentic booking we discussed earlier. If your personal Google search agent is calling the local plumber to fix your sink, and that plumber, who is busy under a pipe, is using their own AI workspace agent to screen and manage their inbound calls.
Oh, man.
We are rapidly entering a reality where our personal AIs are simply negotiating with other AIs on our behalf. When the friction of daily logistics is entirely removed and all those tiny mundane interactions are outsourced to machines, what happens to human connection?
That is a fascinating and slightly wild thought to leave on. Are we all just going to end up with AI middle managers talking to each other while we sit back? I guess we will find out soon enough. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into Google's new agentic ecosystem. We appreciate you taking the time to learn and explore with us, and we will catch you on the next one.